OSPtv. We are back in action. I'm your host, Amer Abdallah. Good to have you all back with us. Thank you for joining us. As always, the co-host, the one, the only. As you see, he's got good style, good taste today. The OG, Dustin Woods.
You took the words right out of my mouth.
Well, that's my job. My job is to be first. We got a special segment today. OG, is this the first female that we've had on the podcast?
That is correct.
Wow.
That is.
You got to start with a heavy hitter.
Wow.
We got to start where it starts. Well, there's no better way to start off with our special guest, our first female attendee and special guest. I don't know where to start. We're going to start with the obvious accolades, and you're going to start hearing some more as we go on. 3-time Coach of the Year, 2-time Olympian, one of the most decorated track and field athletes in her time. Phenomenal coach, motivator, and just an all-around one of the best people that we've ever had a chance to work with. She was just a special guest on our OSP Virtual Kickoff Conference 2022. Had some great coaching with a lot of our female employees, agents, recruiters, administrators, and it is an absolute honor to have her on. The one and only Coach Yvonne Wade, all the way from Las Vegas.
Welcome.
Really happy to be here.
Don't let him shortchange you. 8 Japanese world titles.
You know,
Not
that's a
world,
good
Japanese
statistic.
national.
I didn't know that.
I got those from your
Did you know
husband,
I was
by
Japanese?
I knew you were Japanese, but I didn't know you were 8-time national champion. Wow.
Yeah.
the way. Got that from CLW.
Yeah.
She is the wife of Coach Larry Wade also. Is that an accolade?
That's
or
an
is-
accolade.
That's an accolade.
That takes work.
It takes
It's not
work
an
that you don't have
easy
any gray
job.
hair.
I have a few. You
Yep.
know. So I've survived Coach Larry Wade, so I get some kudos for that.
So Yvonne Wade in studio here in Dearborn, Michigan at OSP headquarters. Welcome to Detroit. Welcome to Dearborn.
Glad to be here.
Thank you for coming in, and thank you for always your time away from your busy schedule, your children, everything else that you have going on. Yvonne, give us a little bit of a backstory. Who is Yvonne Wade?
Well, I was a track and field athlete growing up and ran in college, did pretty well in college, then moved on to be a professional track athlete where I met Coach Larry Wade. And
So you guys met on the
track, yeah.
Competing like in the same.
Yeah, at the same meets, same competitions. We would run into each other, run around the same circles. Yeah, so I've known him a long time, since 1995, actually.
Now, track and field has several different competitions. What were you?
I was a hurdler, just like
You were a hurdler.
Yeah,
So you and Larry were the same.
we were both hurdlers. Yeah.
Who's the better hurdler?
He was better. He's world renowned and one of the best in the world. I was good in my country and got to Olympics and stuff. But he was the dog. He was.
He was.
He
Okay.
was. I'm gonna give him that.
What distance was it?
He's the one. The men are 110 and the women are 100 meters.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's only one distance for hurdlers.
Well, there's the 400, but we're the short sprinter hurdlers.
Gotcha.
So straight down the
You
track.
guys are the ones like just miss it by this much.
Right. We hit a few. Yeah.
Wow.
They go down sometimes.
Yeah.
It can get ugly.
Yeah,
Oh,
sure,
yeah.
man. There's
Oh,
some
yeah.
highlight clips of that.
Oh yeah.
That track
they
is
hurt.
not forgiving.
Yeah. If you hit one, it hurts. For sure.
You had your share.
Absolutely.
Of,
Oh yeah. I've skinned a few.
Okay, so you were a track athlete in Japan.
Yes.
What was that all about?
So that would kind of happened accidental, actually. I went to University of Colorado, and I came out of high school from California. And we had an opportunity to run in the USA Championships. And I looked at my coach, and I was like, I can't run in the USA Championships. He's like, why not? I said, because I'm not American. And he's like, what? Well, where are you from? I'm like, Japan. And then they looked at me really crazy then, because I'm like,
Hang on,
Japanese.
you didn't have a U.S. citizenship when you were here?
I still don't.
What?
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yes, I am a Japanese resident. My passport is Japanese. I have a green card.
Wow.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So Japan doesn't allow a dual citizenship.
I don't know if they allow it, but I just never had one. Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Were you born there?
I was.
You were born and raised there.
No, I came over really young. So my dad was in the military, and I came over when I was 3 or 4 years old,
Okay.
and grew up here. And I would go back and forth. We had family in Japan. and
I
we
didn't
would
know
travel.
that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's funny to see me go in the lines at immigration, and I'm in this line, and they're looking at me, and they'll look at my passport, and
Man, I would send you to Guantanamo immediately. This is not a Japanese citizen.
it looks like it. We're pretty funny.
Wow, no
Yeah,
kidding.
Yeah.
Random fact of the day.
That is amazing. I mean, as long as I've known you, I never knew that.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So you came here, got involved with
track and field.
In Las Vegas you landed?
No, so I grew up in California.
Okay.
Went to school in University of Colorado, or the Buffalo, go Buffs. And Larry obviously was at Texas A&M, and he was in the lead hurdler there and did some good things. So we ran in the same circles. After I graduated from college, I was trying to figure out what was next, So I decided to run professionally, kind of fell into that. Didn't know if I wanted to or not, but, my senior year in college, I actually made the Japanese Olympic team, and that was not planned, which is kind of...
Hang on a second. If you were in the States, how did you make the Japanese Olympic team?
So there was a coach on staff at University of Colorado who was Japanese.
Okay.
And when he found out that I couldn't go to the USA Championships and that I was Japanese, he's
Interesting.
like, yeah.
What year was that?
95. So my junior year in college. And so I was going home to visit my family anyway. There was a track meet.
Wow.
He's like, I'll sign you up for the track meet.
Wow.
I was there, I won, and lo and behold, it was the national championship.
That's awesome.
That's crazy. I mean,
so then everything started from there.
so it wasn't even like a planned thing. I'm going to the Olympics. It was just boom, 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 spur of the
Right,
moment.
yeah.
What Olympics were you in?
1996 in Atlanta, and then
Yeah.
2000 in Sydney.
So I have to ask, I was fortunate enough to go to the Olympics in London in 2012. And being there, you can just feel like the energy, the pressure, all that training really comes down to your event,
Right.
To 10 to 12 seconds.
Right.
What is that pressure like?
Oh my gosh, that. Now imagine, I just graduated from college in '96, so that was my first international competition, true international competition.
Right.
Was the Olympic Games. So to come from college and to step out on the Olympic Stadium, it was insane.
I bet.
It was in Atlanta, so
Wow.
there was some familiarity with being here, in the States and running in a familiar place. But it was amazing. I'd go to the dining commons where all the athletes were in the village, and I remember the Williams sisters being there and looking at them and like, whoa, and seeing all of these athletes interact with each other. So it was an amazing experience.
Let me ask you this, Yvonne. Did the Japanese welcome you as one of their own on
They
the team?
did. It was different. You
Yeah.
know, obviously I looked different. I walked different. I act a little different. So they were very welcoming. It was different though.
Yeah.
So I had to learn, how to not be so American in
Right.
certain situations, and
Yeah.
have show the respect that that there was a gender kind of difference in how you react and interact with other people and stuff. And at that time, the federation was a little older Japanese men, and so they had a different expectation as well. So it was great. Before there was a Naomi Osaka, there was an Yvonne
Hello.
Kanazawa.
Hello.
So let that be known.
Hello. And the reason I ask is, I come of Arab descent, Palestinian, and when I'm overseas, they consider me an American. And when I'm here, they consider me an Arab.
Right.
So, it's like you don't know which hat to wear
Right.
sometimes, and
Absolutely.
it's tough to fit in
Yeah.
culture-wise sometimes. But that's interesting. So 2 Olympics back-to-back. Which one was the more memorable of the two?
They were both really memorable. Obviously, '96 being my first international competition, and I remember, and the race was terrible. I actually choked.
And 96, isn't that the class that Floyd Mayweather came out of? It is.
Well, that Olympics is like infamous because it was when Michael Johnson broke all those records.
I was right there. I was in that
the
stadium.
200,
Oh, no kidding.
400.
I was right there at the finish
Yeah.
line when it
Oh,
happened.
wow.
Yeah, that was cool.
I still remember that. I
There
was
was the
10
bombing.
years old.
There was the
The
bombing,
bombing,
at the park.
yep.
Yeah.
That was 96?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So there are a lot of great experiences, memorable experiences, but I ran like crap. Like it was my first, and I really choked up. The latter part of my race was great, but the start I kind of just froze when the gun ran off. But I can remember hearing my mom screaming, and there's 120,000 people, and I could hear my mom, "Go Yvonne," with a little tiny voice, and that kind of stuck to me. So I walked out of that stadium real disappointed because I didn't show what I was capable of. But 4 years later in Sydney, there's 4 rounds in track and field, so you got to make every round to get to the 4th round. I only made 3 out of the 4, so I didn't become a finalist, but I was in the top 16. So it was a good experience. There was a lot of discussion about all these different athletes, but it was.
There ain't nothing wrong with being top 16 in the world.
Right.
Yeah, it
How
was.
what
It
you
was
do.
experience.
Let alone the top 16 in your high school. Wow. All right. So you went from there to coaching.
No, I continued running a few more years. I tried to make that next Olympic game in 2004. Had a couple of health issues, trying to get back from injury, and I fell just short. So I decided from then I was going to put it up. And I was training at the time at Sacramento State University, and they asked me like, hey, you're out here, would you mind helping our track athletes, And I really thought I was going to go into a real estate mode, and
wow.
I really considered going in that direction. But I started coaching and helping them while I was still training, and I loved it. Like, it was a natural progression for me. My first job as a teenager, when I was 15 years old, I was a gymnastics coach. So coaching became very natural to me, and I loved it. I loved the result, and it just kind of took off from there.
And that's when you started coaching. And did you start with UNLV?
I did not. Started at Sacramento State. I volunteered while I was training there because I was using their facility. So I thought I should give back and share some of my expertise with their athletes, and then eventually got a paid position there. Then I got recruited over to Long Beach State to be an assistant coach over there, and broke some records there and did some great things.
Good for you.
Yeah, and there I coached men and women. And so that was an exciting time. And when I got the opportunity to run my own program, I took it.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
So do you coach both men and women at UNLV?
No, I coach. It was only women's team at UNLV. Yeah, so that was a change because I like coaching both, and I like to have an effect on both genders. Yeah. But it was a women's team.
What is it, or what was the experience like? And I think it's becoming, more and more common to see women coaching in men's sports, which I think is fantastic. What was that experience like for you? Because that was probably different, if I had to guess. At the time, it wasn't as common as you're starting to see it now.
Right. Yeah, it was different. And, I had a lot of guy athletes come to me, and they were used to the aggressive, male coach that's coming in and yelling at them. And I said, well, that's not my style, but just listen to what I'm going to do, listen to what I'm saying, and you're going to get the results. And they did. They ran faster. They won championships with NCAA All-Americans. So they understood that there's different styles of coaching. And whether you're female or male, as long as you're making that connection, that's what's important.
That's awesome. That's
so,
awesome.
Yvonne, so you're accomplished UNLV coach. You're an accomplished athlete. You've empowered so many women that were young women that were on your team and coaching them. What do you think is the biggest piece of advice? Because you can objectively say that you have a triple minority almost, being a female, black, Japanese. So you have layers of hurdles, no pun intended. That you face daily throughout every interaction, business or sports related.
Right.
So what would your advice be to these young ladies?
To not make excuses. I think we come up with a lot of reasons why we can't do something or we won't do something. And everybody has their own story. Everybody has their own backgrounds. Everybody wakes up in the morning with their own dilemmas and things they have to overcome. But don't make excuses. Always find a way to get it done. And that would be my number one advice to them.
Okay, so I get it. And especially today, maybe because there's more cameras out, they're catching a lot more acts of racism. And I know this is a very touchy subject. I'm going to try not to get too political here on you. But, people are filming a lot more discrimination, a lot more racism, a lot more inequalities. Yeah. Do you feel, and maybe you'd be the perfect person to ask, as an Arab American, I have my own position on this as a Muslim also. Do you feel that it's getting worse? Is it the same, or is it non-prevalent?
I think it's the same. It's just more exposed.
Sure.
It's always been there. We've always, I went to the University of Colorado, and at that time, it was 1% African Americans on the campus.
Sure.
And pretty much all athletes, Yeah. And so I knew what that felt like. So it was always there. We didn't have, and that tells my age, but we didn't have Instagram. We didn't have all that stuff to share what, the ugliness of that side of things,
Well said. Yeah.
So it was always there. I think as a black female, married to a black male and having two black male children, there's always, anxiety in that space. But I don't make that an excuse. I encourage my kids and my athletes to live your best life, and people will see who you are, despite what they already assumed. Change their mind.
It's crazy. That's such a fantastic, I think, perspective and coaching advice. And then you compare it to, we were having the similar conversation with your husband, Larry, the other night over dinner, and he's from, rural Texas. And he had said he didn't even realize, the extent of the racism that he grew up in until he left. Right. And then looking back on it, you know, so I think that's spot on. I think it's always been there. It's just you see it more now because there's more technology and the world's so connected,
Yeah. Here's a funny story. I never told you how I met you. And you don't remember this because we didn't know each other. So when towards the end of my career, my last, I think 4 fights, I lived in Vegas, or 3 fights, I lived in Vegas. And I used to go out to the UNLV track because that's just where everybody trained. And my coach at that time, Dewey Cooper, we used to always run that track. So one day I was out there running, and I was doing my own thing, and Coach Larry Wade was out there with Sean Porter, and he always took the inside lane. Yeah. And I liked the inside lane. So I was running on the inside lane, doing my own thing, and I saw them there, and I recognized Sean. And when you look at Larry, he's quite a figure, muscular, black. He's got the cap like right to his eyes.
Wears all black.
Always in black, dark sunglasses, never smiles. He has a presence.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was like, man, and I tell him that now, forward all these years, and where I have the honor of representing him, and I tell him that presence is so important. And it was. I don't get intimidated by anybody, but I felt that presence.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I was running in the lane, and then, Sean decided, man, Sean's 140. Man, I kick him, I'll hurt that boy. But he's 147 pounds running behind me, and so Wade yells, "Lane!" I'm like, man, you. And he goes, "Lane!" Man, this dude's gonna get kicked. Both these dudes. I'm thinking I could probably whoop Sean. I'm not. I got a good shot at Wade. If I break his knees first, that'll be good. And I'm assessing in my mind how this is gonna go down. He's like, "Lane!" And I was like, damn it. And I went over to the right, and then he went by, and I went up to him, and I was like, "Hey, how you doing?" I go, "I'm Amir Abdallah." And he's like, "Yeah, I appreciate that, but when my boy's running that lane, I'd expect you to get out of that lane." I go, "Listen, I'm training out here. So, maybe we can work together." He's like, no, it's my lane, it's my track. And when I saw he had a whistle on a UNLV thing, I was like, damn. I was like, maybe I'm out of my league here. And I was like, all right, I go, whatever, man. It is what it is. And I always painted Larry as like that a-hole. And then I saw you. And you were out there one day with your girls, and you guys were doing something, and I think I was just about to get running. I said, "Hey, are you guys using the track?" And you're like, "You're fine, go ahead." I'm like, man, it's a bunch of a-holes out here. Like, these guys are like,
you thought I was?
The meanest people ever. They were so mean. And then somebody told me that you two were married. I go, I would hate to be a kid in that household. Like, these people are so mean. And then getting to know you guys, you're the nicest 2 people I know, and once you get into, Larry has that presence, but once you just infiltrate, just the layer, just a little bit, he's a big teddy bear.
He is a big teddy bear, absolutely.
And, but that's how I got to know you guys.
I actually remember you out there.
Yeah.
I do.
He's a hard guy to forget.
He is.
I was the old guy trying to keep the career alive. One more fight. But
big old thunder thighs out there taking up the track.
You got to do what you got to do. You got to do what you got to do. So Larry now is, of course, involved with so many different fighters. I see you at all the fights. Do you enjoy the fight game?
I do. I just love seeing the progression because I see these guys work. I see them train. I can see everything they put in behind the scenes, and then to go out there and be a part of that, final production. It's amazing. I feel pride just watching all of them do what they do, and they're good guys.
Right. They become family. I mean,
they become family. But
Sean's been involved with you guys for forever.
Yeah, they're just
beautiful
good
kid.
athletes and good people. So
right.
That's the part that I like.
After a fight, Caleb's last fight didn't get the victory that he wanted. Sean's last fight didn't get the victory that he wanted. What is it like in the house after those fights?
Man. Anybody that knows my husband knows that he puts his heart and soul and his emotion into everything he does. And so when his athletes don't get the result they want, he really absorbs a lot of that emotion, and he takes that home and, like you said earlier, thinks about what he could do better for the next time, and goes back to drawing. It's probably a 2-week process.
Oh, wow.
I think you say he puts his heart and soul into everything, and even from when he got here, I remember, he got in Friday night, went out to dinner. He already speed's ready to go. Saturday, dry run-throughs. This morning, I was like, did you end up watching those fights last night? He's like, no, I was studying. And that's, it's easy to see why he gets the results he does and, why he's, takes it personally. Because he does. He puts everything into it. I mean, even today, we had Johnny on camera reenacting some of it because he was in there. You could hear him from the other side of the office.
Absolutely.
Like he's so passionate. And then there's you, the nurture, calm,
it's a good
collective.
balance. I think we need
and you
that
guys
balance.
both get great results.
Yeah, it's definitely a balance. The funny story is actually he's so intense at anything he does, and he thinks about it when he goes to bed. One night we were asleep, and he jumps up, and I'm like, "What?" I think somebody's breaking into our house, and he said, "Babe, get on the ground and get in the starting blocks."
Oh my God.
I was like, excuse, it's 2:30 in the morning. I was like sleep in my eye, and he's like, I had an idea for training tomorrow, and I just
Wow. You know
that's
what?
Where
That's
he,
awesome.
That's where he is.
Oh,
That's how much love and passion he has.
That's not surprising to me
Yeah.
at all. That's the way he just is. I was telling a story when he was on the podcast here last time. Is him and I. There was one time that we almost had I thought it was going to end up bad. Is when after Badu got cut, and he needed an outlet. And I was the outlet. And he was like, you did this and you did that and you should have done this and you should have done that. I'm like, Larry, this is the way it goes. Yeah. Everybody prepared to their best. And that when you're a part of a team, everybody wants one goal. Yeah, and that's for our guy to come out safe, healthy, and win.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's tough for a guy like that to take a loss.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's tough for all of them. And being in fight camps or being on the track and you even know, there's so much competitiveness.
Yeah.
Which takes me to my next question. In the household, you guys are two elite athletes. Yet one time you were two competitive coaches against each other.
Yes.
Ended up together.
Right.
What's it like in the household? I mean, how is it with the kids? Is there a lot of competition in the house? Is there a competition with everything you do?
No. Early on, I would say yes, because we're both alpha people. And even though I'm the quiet, nurturing type, I'm behind the scenes got a little Larry Wade crazy too.
Sure.
So I just hide it better. He's very intense. But we have two boys in our house. And my goal for them is to see a strong man lead. And so I allow myself to back up a little bit.
Interesting.
Not much.
Sure.
So that they can see him do what he does. So that they can be a man in this world for their wives when they grow up.
Wow.
And know what that looks like and know how a man walks and how a man protects and a man works for his family.
Wow.
So it took a while, obviously, because I'm very used to being that independent, I can do it all by myself type of woman. But seeing him do what he does, I'm just so proud of, the man he is, and I want to see our sons see
awesome.
That and image,
Wow.
emulate that.
Well, and listen, if there's a role model to go after, it, not that we want to make this episode about Coach Larry Wade, but you guys are so intertwined with each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's a great role model.
Yeah.
He really is. He's a man of honor. He's a man of integrity, which speaks leagues about, of course, your whole family because it all follows suit. And I believe there is a head of a household. Mm-hmm. And, when he sets that precedent or she sets that precedent, the rest follow.
Right. Absolutely.
And I think that he's done a phenomenal job with that.
Absolutely.
And on another subject here, a lot of what OSP is developing, mentoring, coaching, young individuals, say 18 to 22, 25 years old. And I always relate a lot of sports to sales and business. Yeah. What do you find is key with developing and coaching and getting the best out of that age group now compared to, 10, 15 years ago?
Yeah, it's because it's different,
It's
the
totally different.
Totally changed.
What do you find that works and the major differences?
I think, back in my era, and I think we're probably close in age, we were able to map out, a plan of action and see the big picture down the road a little bit. Here, everything now, these younger people want instant gratification. Mm-hmm. Everything comes to them quick. They can get it on their phones. They can get it on IG, Facebook, whatever. So I think when you're mentoring and leading young people, you have to kind of meet them in the middle.
Right.
Find a way to connect in a way that they understand, but make them understand that there's no quick way to success. It's not Instagram. You can't just post it and think all of a sudden you're going to get your results. You know? So you have to kind of merge the two mentalities and kind of show them how we used to do it. This is how we used to not, get instant gratification. We used to walk through the snow to go to practice and, had one pair of shoes for 5 years and, so it's different, but you definitely have to meet them in the middle.
Right. And I mean, even with your story, you didn't just end up at, one of the top track schools or programs in the country. You started, Sacramento State, then Long Beach, as an assistant or volunteer, then a paid assistant, then an assistant, then the head.
Right.
It's not, they just see what's on social media and think that you started there.
Right.
But that's a phenomenon. I mean, that when you look back at it, and right now my mind went in a couple of different places, it's so true. And you don't look to see, and Manager John and Shota, they come from a different generation than I do. I come from a different generation than you do. I think we're very similar. I'm not quite as old as you.
I'm like in the middle of everybody here.
But really, it's different generations. They think differently and they act differently, and everything is different. My nephew, I'm 44, so there's about 20 years between us, more than 20 years between us, 25 years between us. And I remember, he was in the car. He was in the passenger side with my sister, and I went up to him and and I was like, put your window down. Look, Dustin's like, what are you talking about?
What is he doing? What is he doing?
I'm like, what are you talking about right now?
Roll the
He's
window
like, bro, what do you want me to do?
What is that?
Put the window down. He's like, well, how is this window? What do you want me to do? Go like this?
Yes.
And he's like, no, go like this. And I'm like, and sometimes you think back and like, they don't know.
They don't know.
They don't know what it's like to have a phone on the wall, and you
Right.
can only go 5 feet.
Right,
Or
with
when
the
you
cord,
Or your parents got upgraded and they got the 10-feet one. You can go into the kitchen and talk.
Yeah.
They don't know that. They don't. I was part of the first generation of the first cell phones in a car, and people would look at you crazy that you had this big box
Right.
in the car, and you had a mobile phone. You had this big ass antenna on the car.
Big antenna, yep.
So you're right.
Yeah.
I was sitting, on a flight the other day, and somebody was pissed off that their internet, while they're flying in the air at 10,000 feet, wasn't fast enough. Right. I'm sitting there looking at him like, bro, you're angry that you're in the air flying in a seat and you don't have fast internet?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just a different mentality.
Right.
But really, technology, the last 5 years, what's happened in technology has surpassed the last 50 years.
Right.
So it's true. And the mentality is different. My 2-year-old daughter, a call will come in, she's on the phone, and she'll swipe up, and I start laughing. How do you know how to swipe up? How do you know when a text comes in to swipe? She's 2.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think there is a huge gap in the mentality between this recent generation.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And the one previous to it.
Absolutely.
Huge.
Oh, 100%. I think now more than ever, because the world is so connected, in a performance, type career, they know what they want to be a part of and like what they don't, right? So like they know what type of environment. The environment now is more important than it ever was because people know what's out there. They know what maybe this team looks like. They know what that company looks like because you can see it. And environment's everything. If they like their environment, and I've done some research on this, they tend to perform better, more so back in the day because you were shut off from everybody else. Like all you knew is what you were doing and maybe the gym you were at. But now, there's no hiding. Environment is everything.
Yvonne, let me ask you this, because it's been 20 years since I've coached athletes. So I had a gym where I was coaching guys, but I haven't yet. Do you have a problem connecting with this generation at all?
I don't think so. I think and I recently retired, so I'm not coaching anymore, but my connection is different. I think as a younger coach, I was like the big sister, and now as I get older and wiser, my connection is more mentoring, motherly. I'm trying to empower women, not just in the 4 years that they were with me on the track, but now what? What are you going to do next after you graduate? Mm-hmm. You need these grades. You need to put your resume out there. You need to do all of these things, make those connections. I look at Jordan Hardy was one of our athletes, and
Caleb's
to see
wife.
her, be in the position that she is, that to see that growth and that span and feel pride in that because we had a little part in that, in that development in her life, that's what made it easy to connect with this generation, and I still look at them in that way. You know, I call them, and they're getting invitations to weddings and baby showers, and those types of moments make it all worth the while. You know, so that's what was important for this generation to connect.
From time to time, I try to dabble in the YouTube world to keep myself young and to keep up to. I can't follow. Like, I need my translator. Look at him laughing at me. I need my translator. Like, what does ghost me mean? Like, I don't know what that means. I don't know what some of these terms mean that they're talking about. I don't get it. Like, all these abbreviations I got to look up. Right. I don't get it.
I don't either.
I believe, and believe me, I think I'm the coolest dad that my kids have, you know, in school, but I feel like I'm a dinosaur. I really do.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and there's a lot of positives to it, though, as well. You know, obviously, OSP, you know, we develop and, you know, mentor future entrepreneurs. And this generation's, you know, there's some things that they're very suited for it. You know, I think when you guys were coming up, when I was coming up, it was like, go to college, get a degree, go start at a corporate America job. Right. Now, more so than ever, entrepreneurship is like cool. Not following the normal route is like, it's acceptable. It's cool. So they're more developed there, and they're more developed in a sense of understanding marketing, right? Which is, you've obviously taken OSP's marketing to just a whole nother level. I still don't even know half the stuff we do.
Sure.
But I bet you a lot of our agents, they understand it. You know, they actually know how to do it. So when they go open up their business or their office, they're more equipped to do that than even I am today. You know, so there's pros and cons.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you know what an NFT is?
No.
I do, kind of.
I know what it stands for.
What's it stand for?
I don't know.
I don't understand. We were just having a conversation last week.
I had to call him
I
on. I know you don't know what it is.
I don't get it, but I know what.
I know you don't know what it stands for. It's a non-fungible. That's fungible token.
Yeah.
Yes. You want to know what a fungible is?
Yes, enlighten us.
Yes, do tell.
I was like, oh, no, they must have misspelled the word. It can't be fungible. There's no such word as fungible. Because everybody and their mother is approaching me about the latest NFT. And I'm like, man, what the heck is this thing? So when you study what it is, okay, let me tell you why it's hard for me to understand it, because I would never use it. I would never be able to buy something that I can't use day to day. People spend tens, hundreds, millions of dollars on something that they don't possess physically.
Right.
So fungible is when you can exchange it. I give you $1, you give me $1. It's the same value. But non-fungible is if I give you my iPhone and you give me your iPhone, mine, even though it's the same, it's not the same. You understand? It has,
right.
There's different parts of it. You know, it's different. So they consider art, which is the easiest way to kind of look at it, and now they're creating all of this whole metaverse. I thought it was called megaverse, metaverse, and believe me, we're jumping into this thing. I'm starting to learn what it is.
Yeah.
It is unbelievable. Unbelievable. There are people buying virtual and digital land. That means it's not land that you go lay down on.
I was just
it's
having
land
this
that's on a computer, and they're paying tens of millions of dollars for it.
Yeah.
Justin Bieber did a concert in the metaverse. And how do you attend it? You've got to have a digital token to attend the concert, and based on where you are is how close you are to him.
Wow.
I was reading an article the other day because I was having the same conversation. And there's a layout of what Walmart's virtual store will
sent it
look
to you,
like.
didn't I?
It may have been you.
Yeah.
And then I saw another one because, you know, I'm a bank of just random current events knowledge. There's some teenager or college student just became a millionaire because he's been selling for like $1 to $3 a expressionless selfie of himself every day for the last 3 to 5 years, and he just became a millionaire.
Wow.
People are paying $100 for his selfie.
It doesn't make sense. And as soon as you understand, our generation, because the younger generation, man, these guys are just washed up and old. As long as you understand that it's not going to make sense to you, you can jump into it. But it is unbelievable. And, you know, that relates to, you know, how you coach people, how you deal with people, how you interact with people. It does, because that's where their head is, and you're in a totally different place. The last 5 years, the advances that we've taken in technology and even currency.
Well, I want to say I read the other day that the next 10 years is about to be insane. Like the whole world is going to flip upside down because this metaverse, like people are literally starting to live their life in a virtual world.
But here's the problem with that. And not that we want to get into this. Like I put these two youngins, Johnny and Shota, on it. And I said, teach me what a metaverse. The problem is I'm not sure it's even defined where anybody knows exactly what it is or if it really is going there. But I'll tell you, they are starting to pop up all over the place.
But you know what's sad about that is that it's now limiting people's face-to-face
100%.
interaction.
Oh, man, there's not going to be.
Dialogue,
I can't
real conversation, real connection.
You say it all the time. The world we knew pre-March 2020 is gone, and it's not coming back.
Yeah.
It's too easy. Why wouldn't I put on my Oculus and go shopping in Walmart, and in 20 minutes it show up at my door and I get exactly what I put in the cart? Why wouldn't I do that? Which would mean, why do people need to go inside of a store? Which means social interaction goes down.
Right,
you know, it's crazy.
Well,
and you know, I think a year ago when we did that virtual conference, it was just weird. It wasn't this norm. Yeah. And then take the one we just did, and it was very normal.
Sure.
You know, who would have thought 2 years, 3 years ago we would ever hold a conference via Zoom? We never even used Zoom. Right. But that's the world now.
I'll tell you what, Yvonne, it could be that even sports competitions, could you imagine racing against somebody in a metaverse where it's not even side by side?
Last year they had a race where each person was in a different location because of COVID.
Wow, there it is.
They did that. It wasn't at a metaverse. They were actually at the track, but there was one athlete in London and one in America.
And they raced against each other.
The clock went off and they ran. Yeah, they did that.
You're going to get that digital, and it's going to be a wrap, man.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Now the world is changing so fast. It's almost scary.
It is.
What's been the biggest challenge, I think, post-COVID for you with coaching, elite athletes?
Like I said, during COVID, we started, 2020? Mm-hmm. Just having that interaction, kids get disconnected very fast. So if you're not with your team and you're not active and you're not, building something together where you guys are seeing the blood, sweat, and tears every day, holding each other's hand and pulling each other's up from the ground, that's hard to build that team connection. When you got to go out there on a Saturday and compete with each other against other people and you haven't built that. Right. That was hard. But we had to do a lot of Zoom calls. We had a lot of motivational talks. We had guest speakers come in on Zoom. We had the different creative TikToks that we made, as a team just to collaborate in some way. But it was really difficult.
Do you have a TikTok yet?
A TikTok?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, do you?
Man, but I don't have any videos on it. Nobody got time for that.
Do you have a TikTok?
I do. I don't use it very much. And every time I try, my sons are like, Mom, you're embarrassing me.
Yeah. No, it's very cringe. Very cringe.
That's a new word. Yeah, my
cringe,
son says
cringe.
that too.
I have hard enough time using Instagram. I don't have a TikTok.
That's a lot.
This is Sylvester Stallone's fault. You ever see the movie with him and Wesley Snipes? I think it's called Demolition Man.
Demolition Man. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the one where. Yeah, I think that's the one where they were frozen, but he put on the glasses. Yeah, they were in the future, and he put on the glasses, and he was even physically with another woman, and everything that they did with glasses.
Yes, yeah.
And they wouldn't high five or anything. Like, he went to go shake somebody's hand. They're like, oh, no, we don't do that.
We don't exchange
That
fluids.
movie was like 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
They're like, no, here we just,
we're
everything
in
is
that
virtual,
space now.
high five. Yeah.
Yeah, we are in that movie right now.
That's crazy.
It's Sly's fault. Sly did it to us. Yvonne, any parting thoughts?
No, I'm just excited to be here. I'm honored to be here. Having the first experience with OSP last fall at that NatCon, that was fire.
Yes.
Fire. I think I told you, but watching you guys work, like I grew so much more respect. I already had respect for you, but to see you guys grind the way you do and then put that production up flawlessly, kudos to you guys. It was amazing. I left there inspired. Team. I know Larry left there inspired, and so I'm just so excited for the future of OSP and all your upcoming leaders. So I appreciate you guys having me here.
Thank you, Yvonne.
Absolutely.
You can follow Yvonne on her hashtag down here on her handle. So make sure you follow her on her social media. And as far as we're concerned, we're going to wrap it up here for another great episode of OSPtv. Special guest, Yvonne Wade, the first ever female guest on OSPtv.
We did it.
Yes. All the hate mail can stop. No, I'm joking. All right. Signing off, guys. My team, my family, my OSP. And we're signing off.